Hi, everybody. This is Gail Kraft, and these are the Women of Wealth, Health, and Power. And with me today is Tashina Beckmann and Carole Griggs. And what we're going to talk about today is something a little bit different, yet it's about everything that we do, and it's about the biology of perception. So I'm going to start with Tashina because she's the expert on the biology of perception, and then we can kind of go around and talk about how each of us deal with that with our clients and how we see that manifest in our lives and theirs. But it's very interesting, and please listen in because you guys are in for an interesting treat. Tashina, tell us a little bit about the biology of perception.
So the biology of perception is all about how our bodies are not determined by genetics and our genes and what's passed on from our parents in the sense of physically, and how our lives are actually programmed more by the beliefs. And Bruce Lipton is the author of Biology of Perception, and he's also just written a book called The Honeymoon Effect. And he's a stem cell biologist, and he started doing all of this research about stem cells and multiplying them, cloning them, and then trying to understand what makes a stem cell, and what makes a cell do digestion in the body. And through all of his findings, he found that actually what was telling the cell to do the job was more or less, I'm not going to explain this because I'm not a scientist per se, but it's all about how our cells react to the environment. And so our environment is the programming we're getting from our parents and from society and media as we're growing up. And that in turn tells our bodies how to respond to the environment. And so when you have an environment that's stressful, the cells aren't able to work in an effective manner, and the body isn't in harmony with one another, so you're going to experience dis-ease from the whole state of the cell. And he talks about how the brain is like this is in the Honeymoon Effect, the book that he just wrote a year ago, and I've been reading it. It's an awesome book. I'd highly recommend reading it. But the brain is like the radio, and it's the actual radio set. But what you hear coming through the speakers is the programming from the other end. And our brains work the same way. So it's not our brain that's causing, disease when the structural everything is out of whack. It's actually the programming that's causing the dis-ease. So instead of worrying about physical radio or the physical brain, we need to be looking at the programming that's coming through the brain. And the brain is actually the thing that's just processing it. And so this all comes into effect when we're talking about self-esteem and physical health and how we view our bodies. Do we appreciate our bodies, or are we hard on ourselves? And all of those environments control the cells and the ability to do their job effectively.
Nice job, Tashina. But one of the things that I got out, because of course I had to go look at the videos, one of the things that I got out of what I've seen so far is that what happens with your body physically when you experience an external pressure like stress, okay, your body goes, and we all know the fight or flight syndrome. So your body gets into that situation, and what happens when you're in the fight or flight situation and you're crunching up and you can feel it physically and your shoulders going in and your stomach crunches up, you're no longer, and Carole, you know all about this, you're no longer digesting, you're no longer functioning internally, your organs internally are no longer functioning because you're now reacting in a physical manner to defend or run. So if you're not digesting, if your internal organs are not functioning because you're scrunching, because you're in that stress situation, you start to experience damage and disharmony and can therefore cause disease at a cellular level. But this just goes beyond that. So what are some of the things, Carole, when you talk about perception from your clients and how it affects their body and how it affects their emotions and what they're trying to achieve, what are some of the things that you see with your clients?
That's a great question. Thanks for the invitation, Gail. In my experience, it's not the external stimuli that's the problem. It's my perception of the external stimuli that needs to be looked at. So it doesn't matter what's happening out here. It just matters of how I interpret what's happening out here. My interpretation of the external environment is actually what causes my internal environment to rise or to either settle or to fight or flight or to become calm or freak out. I mean, that's really all it is my perceived idea of what's happening out here. So until we really look at those perceptions, we're susceptible to the external environment, and we can become victim. We can feel like a victim to the outside world, when it's all an inside job. It's all right here. It doesn't matter what's happening outside. It's how we respond to what's happening outside, our perception of what we think is occurring, or our interpretation of what we see is occurring. So that's where I work, is kind of that stuckness in how I perceive what's happening out here, which then physiologically absolutely has an effect on every cell in the body. So that's typically the direction I start with.
Interesting. Yeah, for me, I work on self-image and self-worth and strength and bravery. So again, it's the same thing as the perception of self as it relates to the external environment and what's going on. One of the things that came out during that video that I was watching, Tashina, which absolutely plays into what I do with perception, is that what happens when you are in this stressful, what I call consumed with me situation, you're not really thinking clearly, because you're not thinking, you're reacting. And so you're actually not as smart as you really are, because you're not making decisions with oxygen going to your brain or thinking in a very clear manner. So some of the things that I have my clients do to get beyond this, quite frankly, is the affirmations or the intentions that I was kind of talking about to you ladies a little bit earlier, and that is, get up in the morning, and what is your intention for how you want to feel that day? Not what you want to do, but today I intend to feel happy, I intend to feel strong, I intend to be empowered, I intend to be successful today. And you set those intentions, and when the stimuli coming in is in disharmony with the intention that you are setting, you are in a better position to deflect it and not allow it to affect your body. That, and then there's nothing better than writing letters of forgiveness, because what ultimately happens if you go through that practice, which every day I forgive somebody or something, every day I write out a little forgiveness note. And what that does is I forgive myself, right? And when you forgive yourself, that, again, fight or flight situation, that stress goes. Because if you love yourself and you care about yourself, then you can manage those perceptions to be much more positive and much more empowering and enabling. So those are some of the things that I do. So Tashina, with the work that you do, and that is totally the work that you do, what are some of the things that you do with your clients?
Well, like I've said several different times, where I start with each individual is exactly where they're at in their life, and understanding what they don't like about it and what they want to be different. And then we work towards that direction of where they want to go. And like Bruce Lipton was talking about, that the programming that's operating in the background is everything that you've accumulated from personal experience to, what you hear your mom and dad say just over and over again when you were growing up, even in passing. And one of the things that I work a lot with pregnant women and parents who've just had kids, first-time moms and dads, or even on their second or third kids. But you don't realize as a parent even how much your stuff is being passed on to your kids subconsciously. You don't even realize what's coming out of your mouth, and you're then passing on subconscious programming to your kids that they're picking up automatically that's affecting them right then and there. An example was I was working with a client long distance a few weeks ago, and her son was just at the stage where he was beginning to walk. and they had had a big change, her and her husband, of jobs and possibly having to move in a short amount of time, and all of this increased and inflared stress started to amount in the household. And the little boy started to become constipated right when everything was happening. Now, you're saying, well, how's this little boy who's barely of, walking age and doesn't fully talk yet, and he's not communicating in, English language maybe, between he and his parents, how is he picking up on all of this stress, and how is he perceiving it through the filters that you were talking about, Carole, that's then affecting his digestive system? So we were going through and doing some work with him on psyche and understanding that he's still safe, even though things are out of his control, and that was part of what was coming up through the work. And we did the psyche balances, and as I was on the phone helping to facilitate the processes, his mom goes, I can't believe it, but he just poops. And so the physical space in the body can have immediate response to an immediate change in the filter that you perceive something through. So one of the things I work with parents is helping them to understand that you have to be really consciously aware of how you're physically affecting your child in every given moment. And that in turn also is helping them to create a healthier lifestyle by changing their filters so that their bodies are also in a place of harmony and peace. So kind of went a different direction than what you would initially ask, but
no, but it's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. And Carole, what are some of the things that you do with your clients to kind of help pull the plug and relieve some of this get stuckness that occurs with them?
Yeah, well, and I'm going to build off of what Tashina just talked about. In the book that I just published, one of the chapters is called Density and Transparency. And what I mean by density and transparency is, our image, our self-concepts and our ideas about who we are become the sticky points that keep us back and keep us suffering and struggling and confused and things like that. So those hooks that are in the body, there are these dense areas, and most human beings, especially children actually, so Tashina, it's cool to hear you talk about that, because children are very feeling-oriented, sense-oriented, and they can feel those dense areas in their parents, in their mom, their dad. And by dense areas, I mean beliefs, thoughts, opinions, judgments. They don't even have to say the words, you should do this, you can't do that, or why'd you do that. They can feel that there's a sensory field that can truly be felt on how safe is this environment. Can I say this? Can I do this? And so the more transparent we are and the less beliefs that are stuck on us, the freer we are. And what I mean by the dense beliefs is like the less there's this perceived idea that I am this self, I am this separate self of images and thoughts and beliefs and stories, the freer we'll be when we're not hooked up with so much of that. So people can feel those sticky areas, those dense areas, especially children. So becoming more conscious of what those ideas and images are of self within myself, the more I'm aware of that in me, the more aware I am of that in other people. So for me as a practitioner, as a life coach, the more conscious I am of the sticky areas in me and these thoughts, ideas, and stories, the easier it is for me to feel and perceive those sticky points in my clients, and I can pick up on them really quickly and then start to work with those. So I find those hooks, I find those Velcro-like stories that are stuck to people that are keeping them bound and struggling.
What about you, Gail?
I had to get off mute. So many stories. Usually, in fact, probably always, one of the things that I do with my clients is when we are talking about the I can't, if I hear I can't, I don't have time, I was unable, and I'm sorry, in a conversation, those are clues to me that they're stuck, right, and they don't believe that they are able to do it. So we talk about what is it that you're trying to achieve at the moment. And then let's look back at moments where you were successful at achieving something like that. right? And so what's different, right, about when you are successful versus what's going on right now? And what's coming up right now that you're allowing to get in the way that you didn't even know or didn't acknowledge previously. And so how do we shift to that more successful thought? Along with that, I constantly celebrate the little successes that happen every day, because one of the things that we have been programmed with from a society perception is, not to be braggarts and, not to be snobs and whatever. And so as a result, we tend to interpret that as not to celebrate the wonderful things that we do. So that is, I bring celebration and joy back into the life, so that rather than look at what has not occurred, my clients start looking at what has occurred and realize that they're pretty awesome people, that they've done some pretty incredible things in a very short period of time, and it builds more success because it builds more confidence, and it starts to release that energy and starts to get the flow going in a way that is productive and constructive versus destructive. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just thought, and it's clearing the false thinking. Thinking is nothing but a smokescreen blocking one from one's true essence, true radiance, true productivity, true, the naturalness, the natural way of being in the world. That just you don't have to go get happiness. You don't have to go get success. It's a part of how you came into this world, and it's literally just layers of thinking and beliefs that are just blocking that natural emanation. So by unhooking some of these thoughts, there's just a natural upheaval of your very essence in this world.
Yeah.
So I actually have a story for you about a person that I know. And this demonstrates how your thought actually affects who you are, the way you emanate your energy, and you start believing what you think, even though it hasn't happened. So I don't know if you know folks who kind of talk to themselves and talk things through, especially when they're angry or a situation has come up. They might walk around the house rehearsing what they're going to say and whatever. This particular person brought it to a level where he was actually holding a dialogue as though it had already occurred. So he would say, let's say he was mad at a woman. She said this, and she said that, and then I said this, and then this happened. And I would sit there and say, really? That happened? Well, no. But because he played it to such an extent that he physically, emotionally, mentally, in his mind, it has happened. And that is now how he would relate to that person. So imagine if you're that person, not involved in this conversation or whatever, and you're now getting these vibes that are completely disconnected. And that is how people who are in relationships actually can start to destroy them, because they play these stories in their mind and take what happened to a level that really isn't real. So
yeah, it's like we're relating to people, whether it's a partner, a lover or a business partner. We're relating through these lenses of fear, anxiety, stories, concepts, thoughts. So every time there's an extra layer, it's like this skewed disconnect. But the less of these dense areas, the more there's just that authentic presence and deep connection that is unbreakable. So I thank you for that story. That's a beautifully displayed story.
Unfortunately, it's true.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It happens every day. It happens every day, all day. It's the number one reason why couples break up or have problems or fight. They're relating through images rather than from presence to presence, from essence to essence, and that deep space where there's no thought. No thought is where people really connect. But when there's thought in between that, who knows what's going to happen?
Well, one of the other conceptions that I've been working with lately has been, that what you see out there is a mirror. And and I kind of have floated in and out of that particular tool, shall you say. But the more and more I work with, especially the forgiveness notes and the intentions, the more I realize that that is almost, in fact, probably is 100% of what's going on in life. So if things aren't working for you, and if it's true that what is happening outside is a reflection of what's happening inside, and then we get back, Tashina, to the biology of perception, what's going on up here, right? So how are you filtering in all of those experiences through your process and through your body that is making this reality? And guys, I've said this before too, how many times have you been at an event, 5 people go, and all 5 of you have a different story at the very same event? You know, and every single one of you say, were you there? I don't think you were there with me. And absolutely, it's because of how, you know, what you do accept in, and then what you do with you massage it when it comes in, and again, what you think is true and not true, and how you react to what's going on around you. And it's different with every single person because we're unique. No one is like me. No one is like you, Carole. No one is like you, Tashina. We are unique and special in this world, and we should allow ourselves to, as you say, Carole, clear the slate, and allow that glory of who you are just kind of shine through. Tashina, you must see miracles all the time. I mean, the poop story I love, by the way.
Well, just kind of going back to what you were referencing regarding the mirror, people are a mirror for you. One of the things Bruce Lipton talks about, both in the biology of perception and the honeymoon effect, is how cells vibrate at the same energy, basically, in layman's terms. And so if you're vibrating at a certain energy, all of the cells in your body, then you're going to attract and bring people into your life that have that same energy. And if you're not liking, you know, that your boyfriend or whoever isn't treating you with respect, that's a reflection of the energy that you're vibrating at with respect for yourself. So it's not so much about other people's faults. It's, you know, it's always somebody else's issue or deal. It's really a reflection, just like you're saying, of what's going on internally. So we really work in Psyche of changing those filters, beliefs about the self, so that you raise that vibration or change the vibration of the energy cells in your body, and then that then brings somebody else differently into your life, or they respond in a different manner.
Exactly, and we take that to a battered woman situation. No woman is going to say, I want to be battered. But if you have a belief in the back of your mind where you think you deserve that, right? That's what the universe is going to bring to you, because that's the vibration that you're set at. You know, so you're absolutely right, Tashina. And it's not what you orally say, it is what you actually truly believe, and the universe brings you what you honestly truly believe deep down. And
yeah,
so, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when you change the environment, again, that those cells are living in, everything else will change around it, both internally for the person and externally in the world.
Isn't that awesome? That is just awesome.
Yeah,
so,
and what I love about that whole, like, you know, Tashina, that you're talking about, like, kind of the biology coming from, like, the cell perspective, the science perspective, that you change that internal environment. I love the word embodiment, you know, because you can change a belief intellectually, but if you just change a belief intellectually, it's just going to be another belief. You're going to try to believe that I'm a good person, or I'm a wealthy person, or I'm a happy person, but really in your gut and your head are saying 2 different things. So long as it's just residing in your head and it hasn't dropped down into your whole system, things won't change. There's got to be an embodiment of this, because when there's an embodiment of it, then it's in every cell of your body, and no matter what thoughts are coming through your head, that's how the body moves. The body will just move from that embodied, quote, belief, or that embodied way of being. But so long as it stays up in the head, it'll just be kind of a mental battle that I should do this, shouldn't do that, and the body will still move from its original belief system. So until it's dropped down, behavior will change. You can't change just the behavior. It's got to come from deep in the gut.
Absolutely. That's why affirmations don't work.
That's why I say Kay does.
And that's why, like, positive thinking, positive psychology, you can't stop there, because positive psychology is just more mental jargon. It's literally more mental jargon for your mind to play ping pong with. So until you do more work, like Tashina or myself or Gail, to really get down to the root of it and embody this new way of being and seeing in the world, and then just naturally moving from that place, that's where real change happens.
Mhm. Definitely. Well, it's amazing because when I don't do this with all my clients, but you can do brain scans to see what neural pathways are firing between the left and right hemispheres of the brain in relationship to a statement. Let's say, I love who I am, blanket statement. You can see what neural pathways are firing, and that'll show up in red. And then we do the balance, which is the subconscious change to shift that limiting belief into the positive belief of I love who I am, and you see immediately all the neural pathways. You do a brain scan after the balance, and you see the new neural pathways in a different color in blue that shows the additional ones that have been fused, which then changes how the entire body operates, because the neural pathways then affect everything else in the body as well. So you're able to see immediate change. And another belief that so many people are, programmed with is change is hard, change takes a long time. Well, if you continue to hold those beliefs, then you'll have experiences that support that belief. So you were asking earlier, Gail, where do I start with some of my clients? That's one of the first ones, is believing that change can be quick and easy and fun. It doesn't have to be hard, so that you can experience the immediate benefits from changing those filters like you were talking about, Carole.
Oh, absolutely. Tashina, and I'm sure for you and for all of us, it's incredibly important. One of the things that I ask of my clients when I first start with them is how are you need to be open, and you need to be willing, and your favorite word, Tashina, you need to be curious through this process. I take a little different technique because I'm working with business and people trying to achieve a business goal, but it's all the same root, right, Carole? It's the same root. It's deep down inside to bring it up. No matter who they are, I have a client right now who is ready to take it, God, to the next level, and he's like, all right, what's the perfect world for you? I would love it if I had this, but I'd be happy with this. Like, whoa. What? Why not go for what you would be just awesome with rather than what you'd be happy with? Because you won't be happy with it for long, right? Because you really want that. So we're going to shoot for that, and we're going to figure out ways to get your level to that point where you shoot for the sky. Because, if you don't shoot for the sky, then why bother shooting at all? Right?
I love that about curiousness. It's the only place change can take place, because curiousness and openness, so long as we're gripping our stories and there's a contraction in the body and we're holding on tight to those old beliefs and stories, how can change happen when we're gripping, like white knuckle grip? There has to be like this, almost like this playful 4-year-old in the sandbox playing with the toys, and like there has to be this willingness to question whether my belief is true or not. And until we're in that place of willingness to really look at a belief that we've held so tightly for our entire lives, maybe that belief has kept us safe for whatever reason our entire lives. But to start to look at these beliefs that have held us hostage, there has to be that playful curiousness, and it's got to be authentic. It has to be this, I really want to know whether this is true. Because until we get to that place, change won't happen. It just won't. So curiousness has got to be at the foundation for this kind of work.
Oh, it gets down to being childlike, absolutely being childlike. Not childish, though that could be fun too, but down, the 4-year-old, the 3-year-old, the 2-year-old, they have the world in their grip. Get to that level where you look at the world like that and you can do anything, because they can do anything.
Yeah, and they come from a place of I don't know. Little kids come from a place of I don't know. And so from I don't know, there's a natural curiousness and a natural openness to anything that might show up. But adults, as we grow, we kind of have this societal pressure to know, that we have to know something and be secure in ourselves and settled in this world and to be confident and, like, you know, warriors. But when we set that aside and we really get comfortable in knowing that we don't know actually almost anything, then there's a naturalness to curiousness and a naturalness to openness to see the world from a different perspective.
Don't you just love your job?
I do, because what I see with my job is I help free people of stuckness, and there's nothing more exciting to me than helping to free people and help them find their natural joy in the world. I mean, to me, there's nothing better than that.
No.
I agree.
I agree. So with that, folks, Tashina, a little bit about you, and then Carole, a little about you. We'll sign off. Tashina?
Sure. Tashina Beckmann, professional psyche facilitator, specializing in women who are pregnant and the whole family dynamics, moms, dads, babies, and little ones all the way through high school. My email address is tashina@empowered2greatness.com, with the website being empowered2greatness.com. Thanks, guys.
Carole?
This is Carole Griggs. My business is Open to Life. You can find it at opentolife.com. And I primarily do life coaching and also wellness consulting in the corporate world as well as the individual world. So if you're interested about any aspects of life, whether it's wealth, health, finding out just, you know, who you are and discovering what's valuable to you and finding your yes in this world, I'd be delighted to speak with you.
Awesome. And I'm Gail Kraft, and I'm the founder of Kraft Bravery and Your Business, and my focus is actually the executive or career world, and helping you get brave enough to take it to the next level, take your business, take your career, take your life to awesomeness that you deserve. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back potentially in 2 weeks. We're going to be changing up our schedule. Take care. Bye-bye.